This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Chapter 2. Methods to the Madness. Along the lonely, dusty stretch of road, rest stops were few. With nearly 14 miles to the next town, a traveler on foot carrying provisions needed more than a day for the tiring journey. By dusk, the traveler would be glad to see a friendly stranger by the roadside offering food and lodging at his nearby home, the closest thing to an inn available in such a desolate area. But this stranger's idea of hospitality was unusual. A traveler who accepted the man's offer of a room for the night soon found himself a prisoner, tied down to the bed. Imagine the poor traveler's growing terror as he watched his seemingly congenial host take out a set of tools, a hammer, a saw, and an axe. Unfortunately for the traveler, his legs were slightly too long for the bed. Without even administering anesthesia, not that it would have mattered much, his grinning host calmly picked up the saw and began amputating the horrified man's legs just below his knees. Before long, the traveler bled to death. This unfortunate man was hardly the first passerby to disappear along this stretch of country road. But, for whatever reason, a long time elapsed before anyone became suspicious. Maybe the host, who could outwardly seem quite friendly, did not kill every lodger he took in, so no one noticed a pattern of people vanishing in the proximity. Maybe his house was set far enough back from the road that it was not easily visible, especially since he himself came out to the main road to look for lone, exhausted travelers who would not put up a struggle. But eventually, rumors of these ritualistic torture murders spread. Finally, in the absence of any law enforcement, a vigilante took it upon himself to rid the countryside of this menace. Intentionally traveling alone and appearing vulnerable after a long journey, he presented an easy target for the killer, who led him back to the house. There, however, the vigilante beat the murderer at his own game. He tied the surprised killer to the bed, the same one in which the man had previously dispatched so many unsuspecting houseguests, and chopped off his limbs. This stretch of road, at least, was now safe for travelers. In a very different time and place, a similar event occurred. Out in the wilderness, on a rough road between towns set far apart, stood a ramshackle little inn run by a family of 4, an elderly father, a middle-aged mother, and their son and daughter, both in their 20s. The shabby little inn, as it was advertised, was really just half of the small house, divided by a curtain from the family's living quarters. For a small price, the family offered food, drink, and lodging to anyone passing by. But over time, at least a dozen travelers disappeared after stopping there. Considerable time elapsed before the sparse local law enforcement realized this, and when a group of men finally went to investigate the disappearances, the family who had run the inn was long gone. The men found the bodies of the vanished travelers buried in an orchard outback. Most of the victims' heads had been bashed in as if by a large hammer. A reader familiar with Greek myth might already have recognized the murderer in the first story as Procrustes, and the vigilante as the Greek hero Theseus.